me to appreciate and recognize the presence of the USAID VHA office present, Site Zakras, CWGH, humanitarian actors, and of course, the media. So without wasting much of your time, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our country director.
I'll briefly talk about who Internews is and some of the work that we are doing in Zimbabwe, and also the work that we are doing for this particular activity that brought us here today. We are a media organization that has been in Zimbabwe since 2019. We started here in Bulawayo, covering the 4 provinces of Bulawayo, Matabeleland in the south, Matabeleland north, and Midlands. We work in a broad sense, covering the media holistically, from working with journalists, from working with media development organizations, from working with grassroots organizations, providing some training, capacity building, mentoring in the broad media sector. So the COVID-19 caught all of us unaware, unprepared for some of the challenges that we experienced, but as an organization that operates and that creates support using some of the methodologies that we have used in other places, we were able to respond to the pandemic by ensuring that the information that is provided to people pertaining to the pandemic, including vaccination at some point, was more applicable to the challenges that we were experiencing in this context. So the Rooted in Trust project is one such interventions where we were trying to look at the rumors that were being spread concerning the virus. I'm sure you all know the rumors that have been made. So I do not want to preempt some of the things that we covered, including a study like this one. We also use the information ecosystem assessment not only to guide the implementation of what we do, but also to enable us to refine future programmings that we do. So today I want to welcome all of you, our partners that we partnered with, the different stakeholders, our donor who is here present, as well as the different journalists that are here, and most importantly, the Internews team that works with me.
So I'm delighted to be here today with you. It's an honor for me to be here in Bulawayo with all the partners of Rooted in Trust and the media at large to launch this information ecosystem analysis report. That's the Rooted in Trust team and the partners have prepared for many months. Our donor will talk later on after me. Our Rooted in Trust initiative is funded by BHA globally. So BHA is the Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance of USAID, and we are doing similar work as Internews in other African countries, Mali, DRC, Central African Republic, South Sudan, and Zimbabwe. So today it's an event happening in Zimbabwe, but it's important to remember that it's a global work, and we are doing great work under this project in many other places, especially in Africa. And when I was looking at the exhibition today, I was looking, we needed and we need more Rooted in Trust, even in Europe, where there is so much misinformation about health diseases and vaccines in particular. I'm the regional director for Africa, Brice, not Bryce. I can say on behalf of Internews that we are very proud of the work done here in Zimbabwe by the whole team and the whole partners. We are very proud because this type of project has been able to provide an immediate response to the crisis, to the COVID-19 crisis, and to the spread of rumors. The spread of rumors that can, of course, be deadly because the rumors have direct impact on how people respond to a health crisis. This project has given life-saving information on the pandemic, and then later on it was able to pivot to other diseases. And the fact that the project has been able to pivot is also a success. And then we could see also that thanks to this project, there was an increased communication and increased information sharing between partners who usually don't talk to each other, like the government, the hospitals, the doctors, the ministries, the NGOs, the humanitarians, sometimes the donors. So it was good that this project has been able to actually act, as a way of communication to improve the response. In the most recent part of the work, actually, we have strengthened the capacity of humanitarians, of media, of health communicators to ensure that their COVID-19 information work is shaped by and responsive to the needs of vulnerable communities. So this IEA, this information ecosystem analysis, is one of the tools that we use to identify the needs of the vulnerable communities and target our action. So IEA is a methodology. It's a methodology that is designed by Internews, actually by a Zimbabwean lady called Alison Campbell from Bulawayo. And this IEA methodology is there to help us understand the information supply side and the demand side. So it puts people at the center of the research. So it's not a media landscape analysis. We are not going to say, in Bulawayo, site is the best, the biggest online source of information of the people. It's not about that. It's about how a citizen, understanding how a citizen will basically receive information and consume this information. How we'll receive news from various sources of news, traditional leaders, the media, the health actors, and what he or she will do with that news. So it's basically putting one person at the center of an entire ecosystem of information. And now you see what I'm talking about, because you receive information from people, from your mother, from social media, from TikTok, from your neighbor, from the radio, from so many sources of information. So one ecosystem is all the news and information that you receive around yourself. So it's hyper-local. What I want to say is it's hyper-local, and we have been doing information ecosystem analysis in many parts of the world, in Haiti, in a slum in Haiti, in a refugee camp in Kenya, in a neighborhood of Afghanistan. Like in many parts of the country, Internews has actually conducted IEAs. So today we are doing this one, and we are very proud of this one because it's conducted in 5 provinces, of Zimbabwe, and because it has like very different conclusions and recommendations from what we can find in other countries and situations. So I would like to say thank you to the Internews team, thank you to the local partners, SITE, ZACRAS, CWGH, thank you to the USAID BHA team for the incredible work done on this IEA. I know it's been so much work, and we are very much looking forward to the presentations. I also want to say that if you are from the media, myself, I'm a journalist. If you are from the media, I will hope that you will find also some good information for you to better understand what your audiences are looking for in terms of news, and that it will help shape some of your radio programs, online programs, because this is also what it's about, basically responding to the information needs of your community, of your audiences.
I am really honored to be here. Internews this is the first time that the USAID Humanitarian Assistance Office has partnered in this type of initiative that really focused on what Internews so aptly called an infodemic. I think that, as you might remember, going into COVID, there was a lot of fear. I mean, going back to early 2020, and like the fear and the uncertainty and the who do we trust, and what is going on in this world, and all of a sudden we're all locked in our houses and nobody can tell us what this disease is. And so there was a lot of rumors and a lot of people trying to figure it out. And so I think it was really commendable that Intronews saw this and decided to apply to the humanitarian arm of USAID for funds to address this. USAID, BHA, so I'm the office director in Zimbabwe for USAID's Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance, and we are all about saving lives. That is our primary goal. So most of our work here in Zimbabwe is based on slow onset disasters like the droughts and food insecurity, water shortages, those sorts of things, and also rapid onset disasters like cyclones, etc. So saving lives is not normally linked to information, management, information dissemination, and communication with communities so directly as it was with the pandemic, because it became an infodemic, right? So I think it was really groundbreaking and commendable. And as Brice mentioned, this was a global macro award, so it was also something that BHA globally looked at as really critical. I also want to commend Intronews on its choice of local partners. I think that you all here today and the work that you've done with the sub-partners, the 3 sub-partners has been incredible, and we're really well placed and well chosen in terms of the unique capacities that each partner brought. So in terms of some of the key things that I think, of course, this information ecosystem analysis is really, really critical, and hopefully this will help with some of the sustainability of these pieces, to really understand how information communication works. And as Brice Musitini mentioned, it's really hyper-local, you know, like how I get my information is also going to be different from how my brother or my husband gets information. And so we have to really think about that even within a household level, but certainly at a community level and certainly at a provincial or a national level, that how people trust and process information is going to be different. And I think that recognizing that and choosing to delve into it is really important, and it's going to be of great value going forward. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of today. I also think that the importance of the two-way communication in this award has really come forward. There is so much value in listening to what we used to call beneficiaries, but there's so much value in listening to communities. That's where most of the answers come from in the end. I think top-down development and top-down life-saving assistance is really about just figuring out what people want and making sure we get it to them. So I think that two-way communication is a key aspect and a great practice, and hopefully some of the humanitarian stakeholders have picked up on that and have improved as a result of some of the lessons undertaken. And then I think, finally, I want to just say that, I think that especially around risk communication, there are a lot of rumors and there's a lot of fear. And it's not just related to COVID. There's across the chain of the health spectrum, but also in other sectors as well. And so it's really important, again, to really engage the communities on that. And so I'm really looking forward to, again, how this analysis will help us understand, especially around the risk communication pieces, how we can do better at talking about some of the really hard issues that some people don't even want to talk about within their own families. How do we talk about that as communities? Is really key. So and again, very proud to be here, proud to partner with all of you. Thanks to the entire Intronews team, Musitini and Stella and Senzimana in particular, who put up with all of my questions on our phone calls. But thank you very much. And I think this is really impressive and important work, both in terms of helping save lives during the COVID pandemic, but also in terms of what we can take away and what we learn from this going forward.
I like the part where she was talking about how it is so important that when we are carrying out our research and when we're programming, we consider the people at grassroots level, the community generally, not to just assume that this is the needs that exist in the communities. But because of the IEA, there's an appreciation and there's that interaction with the community just to understand if the young people did manage to access information when it came to COVID-19. So one great thing about this IEA, I'm going to touch it, I'm going to hold it, so that you just have a look at how the cover looks. This is the IEA. It is about to be presented to you by our researchers. So key learning points, key takeaways for me were that although COVID-19 did not affect us in Zimbabwe and probably Africa as a whole, at the length at which it affected other countries. But from this IEA, there were so many learning points and key takeaways, and also it helped us to understand how best we can respond to other pandemics and to other health concerns. So you will see, after the presentations have been made to you, I think the great thing about being a host is that you can preempt, so that you sort of like have an idea of what is about to come as the researchers give us the findings. So, it's usually say that information is power, but I think there is power when you know how to use that information. So right about now, our researchers are going to give us the findings, which is the information that we all are sitting here to listen and understand as they give us the IEA findings. And so it is my hope that after the presentations have been made, we are empowered, we're equipped, and we sort of like use that information to our advantage and for our benefit and the community as a whole.
But I'm Rizin Beremauro. I'm the lead researcher working at a global level. I'm going to give you a PowerPoint presentation of both our project and overview of what we're doing in this particular project, how it was organized at both the local and the global level. And then I'll hand over to my colleague, Cindy Sondovu, who was one of the lead researchers here in Zimbabwe, to present on the exact findings of our IEA. So it's an analysis of it's information across borders, an analysis of youth, migration, and information dynamics during a pandemic. And then I'll just briefly tell you about the Rooted in Trust project. I know some of you have heard a bit about this particular project, but this is a global pandemic information response project, which we're implementing as Internews to counter the speed and the spread of rumors and misinformation on COVID-19. And as the project progressed, we also looked at other different health topics. The idea with Rooted in Trust was that we wanted to strengthen the capacity of humanitarians, media organizations, community health workers to ensure that we are responsive to community health information needs and that we provide timely and relevant information. Here in Zimbabwe, the focus of our research, or the focus of this particular IEA, was on young people. And young people, we define this as the age group aged between 18 to about 35, drawing from the African Union definition of what constitutes a youth. We implemented the project in 5 different provinces, that is Matabeleland North and South, Midlands, Bulawayo, and Masvingo. The information ecosystem assessment itself is a study that is designed to understand the dynamics of transmission, production, and consumption of information in a specific context. The IEA takes a very multi-purpose, human-centered approach to understand how people and communities find, share, trust, and value information. IEA, we do it to understand the dynamics of the transmission, production, and consumption of information within a specific context. We take a very multi-purpose, human-centered approach to understand how people and communities find, share, trust, or value this particular information. What distinguishes our approach as Internews is that we try to ensure that our programming is evidence-based and that the information that we receive from the IEA is fed directly into programming, and we also use it to engage different communities. We are currently in the second phase of the Rooted in Trust 2.0. So this is Rooted in Trust 2.0. In the first phase of the project, we implemented the project in different countries, such as the Central African Republic, Lebanon, Colombia, and in this particular phase, more countries have come on board. So at Rooted in Trust, we believe that programming needs to be informed, and to ensure that our programming is informed, we do this through both primary and secondary research. We privilege an inclusive and participatory approach, and as such, we work with our local partners to ensure that we reach out to communities, because our local partners are well embedded within communities. And then at a country level, the in-country research teams, they are supported at a global level by a technical advisory team. And this ensures that the research that we conduct in each country is somewhat uniform, even though it draws out locally specific information. In Zimbabwe, we started our data collection in May 2022 up until June 2022. And we wanted to find out how communities produce, how they value, how they share the information that they receive. We focused on the southern parts of Zimbabwe because of there's a lot of movement, both within the country as well as to the neighboring regions. And because of this constant migration, we felt that, especially young people who are always on the move, are vulnerable to misinformation, and they receive so many different types of information, and we felt that we needed to empower them in order to share accurate, verified information. The IEA adopted a participatory mixed methodological approach that combined different data gathering techniques. And this included documentary analysis, where we looked at different types of reports, different types of published materials from both humanitarians and academics, as well as key stakeholders such as the World Health Organization. We also carried out a community survey where we spoke to about 422 individuals in 5 different provinces. We also conducted key informant interviews, and we carried out focus group discussions. In total, we carried out 10 focus group discussions, which was like 2 FGDs in each particular district which we visited. And we spoke to about 22 key informants across these districts. And among these key informants were religious leaders, we had community-based organizations, we had media workers, and we had community health workers, as well as government officials. We tried to be as inclusive in our approach, so we included different gender categories, and we also tried to include very specific groups, such as people with disabilities, in order to ensure that we capture as much of the information as we possibly could. Among our key findings is that the first finding that I will talk about, which we highlight in the report, is that there are demand, needs, and gaps. We found that many of the people that we spoke to, they highlighted that they needed additional information around COVID-19.
Take over from the results section. So I think I had introduced that we did our IEA here in Zimbabwe from May last year up until December, sometime thereabout. And I think we have mentioned that our sample, like all in all, I think we then interviewed around 422 individuals that participated in the survey. So we actually had two, it was a mixed method. We collected quantitative data and also collected qualitative data. So for the quantitative data part, we had a community survey where we were going around in communities and in all the districts here, like they mentioned, like Mat North, Mat South, Midlands, and in Masvingo. So all in all, we had 422, and these were community surveys, but we also had the assistance of SITE as well. So online surveys were also conducted where participants were asked to fill in the questionnaire online. And so all in total, then we had 422. And I think we also mentioned that we were trying to maintain that precision, like the 95% confidence interval, that at least 95% of the respondents can just show the real situation on the ground in these areas. So 10 focus group discussions were also done, and approximately, like in each focus group, we would have 15 individuals per group. And the 22 key informants as well, which included religious leaders, pastors, people from the community-based organizations, and government officials. And the key informants were based mostly on leadership and availability. We actually got assistance from our partners from ZACRAS because they are based in these communities. So they helped us locate the individuals that we could actually interview for the key informants. And these were basically maybe they were based on availability, if they were available, and as well as the information that they possess, knowing the area and how COVID-19 is going about in the specific locales. So the study adhered to the ethical guidelines as well, and we try to make sure that in the report that we don't have any key identifiers, the names and any identifying information is not published. And as well, like with any other research, we hope that no harm was done in collecting our data. So the team adopted an all-inclusive approach, and we included people with disabilities, and we also tried to balance with gender, both the male and the female. Okay, and so as a part of the, we had different dimensions. We had about 6 dimensions that we're trying to address. And the first one was, we wanted to find out the demand, needs, and gaps in the communities. So basically, we're asking the question that, do you feel you have enough information to meet your needs? And those were the responses. And basically, what we then found out, the results were that the majority of the people, this is like 81%, we're not having the needs. They're not having their needs met in terms of the information that they were accessing. So meaning that if 81%, that's the most prevalent, the highest percentage they still have that gap. There's that lake paucity information that needs to be tapped into. Okay, and in the areas that they felt that they lacked information were especially in terms of treatment, in prevention, as well as the issue of vaccination. Okay, and then again on the demand needs. So especially with the focus group discussions, the people then highlighted that it's not just the information on COVID-19 that they felt they needed on. Instead, these are youths, so they felt that they also needed information on employment, on basic issues, because in some communities we're coming in and we're talking about COVID-19, but this is an area that probably has, that's lacking in water, basic amenities that they need more than probably what you're coming in with. And there were issues of crime, of drug abuse, scholarship opportunities, and sexual rights health. So this just then pointed out that, we are not there, the people are not living in silos. It's just not just one problem that is prevalent. But at the end of the day, these are all interrelated and they are all embedded in the communities at different levels. Okay, and then in terms of access, then we also found out that most of the information was accessed through WhatsApp messaging applications, right? So that's the highest. Like 54% of the youths actually get their information from WhatsApp. So in as much as this is health information, okay, it's just information, but it's not verified. So it's either it is either true or false, but that is where they access the information. And I think, as we can see, that also the lowest prevalence there was with newspapers. They rarely reported that they actually access their information from the newspapers. And then we had the issue of trust. Like, now that you found the information, you've gotten information from wherever source that you're getting, where would you which is the most source that you would trust when it comes to information on health? And the highest prevalence there was reported among the health workers. So when it came to health-related information, the youth reported that they trust information that is coming from the health workers. And then next to that is the NGOs. So they would rather get information from NGOs and health workers, and that is the information that they trust the most compared to other sources. Okay, and then now that you found the information, you trust it, how do you share? What is the movement that happens with the information that you get? So with the discussions that we had, we found out that, when COVID-19 started, there was information dump. There was just this influx of information. They had all this COVID-19 related information, and it was also both fake and also true. But it was now entirely up to the individuals themselves to then now to try and decipher which one is true, which one should I trust, and what should I do with this information? Should I then pass it on? But now the fear that was amongst most of the community members was the death, right? COVID-19 was almost like a translation to a death sentence. So in the end, most of the information that was shared was mostly on remedies. How to use steam, how to use ginger, how to use lemon, all these ways or remedies that they thought, okay, they could actually maybe lessen the problem or reduce case mortalities that are related to COVID-19. And this information, again, as we've shown, the results showed that WhatsApp was the platform that was used most. So WhatsApp audios, videos, and sometimes it was text with graphics. And because it's text, the picture says more than 1,000 words. It was most believable because they are seeing the picture. They're actually even seeing testimonies in some cases where those people were actually telling fake or true, whichever way, on COVID-19. So it was really verified, but because it was graphic in the way, they ended up believing most of the information that they were getting from WhatsApp media. Okay, and then now when it came to the issues of barriers and the drivers, remember our topic, the title of our ecosystem assessment is Information Without Borders. So it is these borders, these barriers that we're actually trying to investigate, that which are existent in the communities. What exactly is actually inhibiting the information, from being passed on from one person to the other, or just getting to the right person so that they can make an informed decision. And one of the key findings also showed that people with disabilities had actually challenges accessing COVID-19 information, and because it was not tailor-made for them. So people who were blind actually mentioned that, okay, they had challenges. Okay, actually, maybe in most of the cases, they had no information that was in Braille form. So because that information is not there tailor-made for them, it meant that they have to now depend on second parties or third parties to translate. They hear something from them and it has to be translated down to them. And just that issue of translation, there's so much information that can be lost, and by the time it gets to the intended party, it might have not be as intended in the first place. And there was limited access of information through digital media because of the cost. Remember, these are youths, and most of the youths in Zimbabwe are unemployed. So it meant that if they have to get information online, one, they're unemployed, they don't have the funds, and they don't have the money to actually purchase data, then that on its own, the socioeconomic status that they are in, is actually inhibiting them from getting from accessing information on COVID-19. And there were also issues of network challenges. I'm sure we can all relate to this, network challenges, and it's even worse in marginalized communities in rural areas, that the network challenge is a problem. So messages in WhatsApp these WhatsApp messages actually get there late, or maybe they're not even delivered at all. And then the poor telecommunication infrastructure as well is poor, and the reception to the radio and television can actually be delayed because of the blackouts. Okay, and in some cases then the youth also noted that the issue of the languages, that most of the information was coming in English, Shona, and Ndebele because these are the dominant languages. But when you then go to other areas where they are using minority languages, they also feel that it's better to access information in the language that you understand, that you speak. So that was also on its own, it was inhibiting because they would want to find information that they understand in their own local context, in their own language, but that was also, they couldn't attain that because of the issue of dominant languages. And fake news was prevalent, so the issue of what do I believe, what do I take in, and what do I reject. And then because they are youths, they felt that the local leaders, their elders, these are grown-up people in the villages, they felt that local leaders they're not reliable. They're not to be trusted. You know, youths think they know it all, and that the elders, they are old, archaic, and they don't know much information. So they felt that if it's an elder, someone older than them, giving them information, they felt it's not to be trusted because they are not in touch with reality or with, you know, like what is happening there in the instant time. So the biggest challenge as well is that duty bearers and the Ministry of Health do not always avail timely information in the districts. So it's always a blanket approach from top down, and by the time it gets to the communities, it's not actually customized for those locations. Okay, and so we also then wanted to find out the myths and rumors that if you are to then get information, remember there was information dump, they were getting information from everywhere. And in the case that you're getting any source of information, are you in a position then to differentiate that this is a rumor and this is actually factual? And in most of the cases, they actually could not differentiate the difference between a rumor and the truth. So the final part of the survey also was we had a quiz where we were trying to find out rumor identification. So by rumor identification, we were trying to use this now as a proxy. If you get the information, are you in a position then now to make an informed decision and to make a choice on your health outcome or how you react to the health information, okay? And so we were asking them questions, it was a true or false, whether they get it right or not. And basically, on average, we found that it was 79% of the respondents, yes, could actually tell the difference between a rumor and the truth. But what then worries is the 21%, because in as much as it's minor, it might seem minor, it's less than 25%. But in the case that they actually take the information and they cannot discern that, okay, this is true and this is false, and they take up the information that can actually be fatal to their health, then it can actually lead to case fatalities. And these are that's the 21% that they could actually not discern in the ecosystem. This is actually information that is true and to be trusted. Hence, this is a vulnerable population in the group. So we also collected just a few rumors, and we're asking them, okay, what have you heard? What have you heard about COVID-19? And these are some of the rumors that that they highlighted, that they'd had that COVID-19 will affect fertility, that it will cause men's sexual dysfunction and impotence, and that it is associated with satanism, whereby the chip, if you get that chip, right, it is actually a mark of the beast that, okay, and that COVID-19 was a Western way of wiping out Africans, and that after contacting COVID-19, you will die vomiting maggots from your mouth, and that COVID-19 vaccination will lead to wrinkles. So those vaccinated, take warning. The vaccinated individuals will also die after 2 years. Vaccines are an experiment, and one has to keep boosting. Actually, some actually thought that it has an expiry date. So after, you know, like after a certain date, it expires, and then you have to go on and keep boosting. Okay, so considering all those results that we have, we had a few recommendations. So to the government, we would recommend that if the government should decentralize information provision so that COVID-19 information is context-specific. So not just at country level, but to come down to provinces, to individuals, so that it's actually tailor-made and it actually suits the specific needs in communities. And the government should also try and be creative in packaging information, because youths are accessing their information from WhatsApp. So educate and entertain them at the same time. Use edutainment. And the use of hard sell and scare tactics will not work, because you scare people, they will resist, they will retaliate. And in the end, the intended, in as much as maybe vaccination or whatever, whatever intervention you want to put, it will end up being rejected, though not in the first place. And that the widespread use of social media as WhatsApp should be used, especially even in marginalized communities. So the government should then adopt communication tools that will allow ease of sharing, especially on WhatsApp. You know, like on WhatsApp, they just need these short clips, 30-second clip, and should be packaged, and it should be well informing, that 30-second clip, and can easily be shared, because data is expensive at the end of the day. And there is need for COVID-19 information that targets people with disabilities. All right, and there is need to target religious sects, especially faith leaders, on COVID-19 awareness. There's so much information, and actually most people actually access. They go to these churches and they get information because they trust their pastors. So there is need to actually even target these religious sects as well. And then to the humanitarian organizations, I would recommend that they work with community-based media organizations in formulating effective strategies on debunking rumors and capping their spread on social media. And there's also need for interventions that not only focus on just providing information, but also on resilience building. Humanitarian organizations can also carry out information that educates, especially the religious groups like we mentioned earlier, because most people actually trust people from their religious sectors. Okay. And then we have recommendations as well for the media organizations that sharing information in local languages is actually important, because it will ensure identification with people can now adopt their messages in the communities when it's in their own local context. And there's need for scaling up visibility and appeal of the community newspapers. I think we saw the access on community newspapers is the lowest, less than 20%. So there's need to, upscale and make the newspapers appealing, so that the key populations can actually access them and probably enjoy reading them, and that could actually work for the betterment of their health in the end. And there's potential for community media to utilize digital technologies to produce and share content with their audiences on various online platforms. And then we also have recommendations for the religious and faith leaders, that there is need for the faith leaders to implement structures in their churches that address biomedical issues and aim to connect science and faith beliefs. So it is actually prudent to seek expert input, especially from the congregants themselves who have scientific know-how, because I think there's a point in time where they have to compartmentalize and say, okay, we are religious leaders, we are not medical personnel. So when it comes to medical issues, then let someone who's more experienced come and address these issues. And that way, actually, it can help with the health outcomes of individuals at the end. Okay, and finally now, the recommendations just to community members, the gatekeepers and influencers, that I think it is our responsibility for each and every one of us. We need to be responsible, we need to be accountable, and authenticate and verify information before you share. So before you click that share button, before you click to anyone, just take a step back, breathe, and ask yourself, should I really share this information? Because it could actually be information that could be harmful to the next person. So verify information before you share it. Okay, and as part of the IEA in action, Rooted in Trust actually adopted some of the recommendations, and we made sure that we engaged with faith and religious leaders on health information. We also prioritized the use of WhatsApp platforms so that we could share information, and there was capacitation on misinformation and rumor spotting in communities, and there was also the continuous tracking of rumors in local languages as well as in English, okay, from all the provinces. And so we also have recommendations to the BHA USAID that information access and supply using trustworthy sources is key is a key component and should be recognized as such for any humanitarian response to be successful. So, and we also feel that people in marginalized communities often trust information in their local languages. So if there is information that has to be disseminated, it should by all means try and be in the local languages. That way it's understood and it's received in well. And it is imperative to communicate successfully with communities through strengthening fact-checked information, and especially on the channels that they access the most, which is WhatsApp in our case, as we found in the results. And we feel that there is need for further research, and which can actually maybe look into the intersections between vaccine uptake and emerging healthcare threats. So this could be polio, measles, or any other threats that we feel that could be actually emerging in our communities, and especially among the religious groups, because it is the religious sector that seems to have a hold or so much influence on health outcomes or the action that people take regarding the health issues. And then around pandemic, there is also need for research around pandemic preparedness and access of reliable information among key populations. And this could be youth, it could actually be issues on gender, or it could be the LGBTQI communities, but all these key populations also need to be investigated and examined, so that when we then come and implement or we are putting on an intervention, at least it's evidence-based, because we have actually done the research on key populations. And we also feel that the rooted in trust and rumor tracking model can be used to implement protection programs. So we can actually use this the IEA as a model, so that in the cases to come, if there are issues on climate change, on GBV, on drug abuse, on programming, the IEA now is just used as the model, so that it can influence whatever implementations that have to be done. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much to everyone who's spoken before me. It's really, we are excited to be here today, And without further ado, on the program it says, what are the key takeaways, So I'm hoping that you were following as Cindy was, giving her remarks. And I would, give you an opportunity to share what you think or what you took from the presentation today. For me, the first takeaway would have been to do with meeting the information needs of youths. I really found that to be very important. Meeting the youths through different formats, different multimedia formats, so that they can access the different types of information that they need. That's my takeaway. Don't nod your head, Cele. That's my takeaway.
Happy on the observation on the young people, they actually trusting the village health workers as their most trusted source of information. I think when COVID came, in this instance, there was no time really to actually, it was a new pandemic, it was new to us. There was no time to actually have these village health care workers trained, actually disseminate information, the right information about COVID, be it the causes, be it the prevention mechanisms, be it all the rumors and so forth, be it the vaccination. And I think going forward, maybe as community media and with partners like you and anyone who is interested in other stakeholders, we need to create an emergency information response mechanism, like what they do with the humanitarian or disasters, so that when we get to be in such situations, we are always ready. And I think maybe as community media people, we need to further strengthen the networks that have already been created by this project with the healthcare facilities, with the healthcare workers, because they formed the bulk of the information disseminators as time went by, especially for the community healthcare conventions that were done by SACRAS through the community radio initiatives. So I think going forward, there needs to be, this research is actually, I think there needs to be that information response, immediate, quick information response mechanism to address some of these issues as they emerge.
I'm from National Association of Residential Care Facilities Trust, a network of care homes. I was quite glad that the research was also sensitive on people with disabilities. My sector works with the youths with disabilities, and particularly the visually impaired, the hearing impaired, and we also have those who are intellectually challenged. And it's quite a challenge when it comes to dissemination of information, and it also touches even on us as stakeholders and people who disseminate information, whether we have the capability to the language, the right language, and the right instruments, and also I think it's all upon us to really seriously consider that sector, and also to put resources into it where Braille is needed, where sign language is needed for us to be literate on it, and also to disseminate information, and also to find ways of even reaching those who are intellectually challenged.
My name is President Sean Fama. I work with Coach Zimbabwe Program for Young People. From the presentation, there's something that I noted, that after young people, after they trust health workers for information, they also trust NGOs for information. So maybe my takeaway will be, we need to invest as NGOs or as community-based organizations, we need to invest more on our communication side, because young people trust us with information, and also maybe invest on translating to local languages. And also on the recommendations, I noted that there is a recommendation that says there is need for media literacy programs to help you distinguish between fake and authentic news. So maybe also we need to invest more on behavior change programs, whereby we are addressing this youth behavior of relying on social media for news, and then teach them on how to distinguish between fake news and the real news.
I think the key thing for me was when you made a recommendation on, I think she mentioned that before we maybe share whatever information that we have, there's need for us to be responsible, there's need for us to verify that information. And I actually looked at myself and I said, how many times have I just shared information without really verifying that information, and the danger that information that I've shared can actually cause it, to other people. And I say maybe as a key takeaway, it's very important for me as an individual to do, to just verify whatever information, because it really affects maybe the next person. If that next person reads that information, it can really affect the way they, maybe they can access a certain service or something. And as a key takeaway, also as we work in the community, as we work with communities, there's need for us to ensure that communities have factual information so that they're able to make informed decisions as far as their health is concerned.
Thank you, Tato. My interest was on the recommendation to faith-based religious leaders. These people command a large following. So I'm not so sure, especially in Zimbabwe nowadays, it's becoming scary that religious leaders are.
Finish.
All right. My point was it's becoming still that they're commanding a large following. Sometimes when it comes to your information, they might change because they say this today, tomorrow they've changed. So I think there's especially the need, the information need amongst religious leaders themselves. They need to pay like capacitation or to gather the information before they even spread what they did or what would best benefit them. Secondly, I would appreciate that the use of local languages in communities with UX evidence to what maybe we have seen in most of the communities. If you go there with a flyer maybe written in Isindebele, abantu n'abakhulunyiswa definitely before they even read it, you have created an attitude and you have created a barrier for them to receive that information. So as we maybe continue to work in communities, really know that we try our level best to give information using the local languages, correctly interpreted. Because sometimes if you write this in the way and it's broken, it's facing attitude again. Thank you.
Pertaining to the issues that are affecting the marginalized community in terms of information dissemination through the media houses. And as the marginalized community, especially the LGBTI community, we are facing stigma and discrimination as well as the sentence, especially when we are hearing the issues that are coming from Uganda. And we usually see that due to the comradeship that is in African leaders, we end up also having that criminalization coming down to Zimbabwe. So we are saying when the media houses in Zimbabwe, when they need information from the LGBT community, they should use the pseudonyms to protect the lives of the LGBT community. And also the issues to do with the digitalization. We are now in the digitalization world, and the sex workers community are facing challenges in terms of accessing data for doing their work, just because we will be doing also online seeking programs such that we've got a work just because sex work is work.
Message speaking to the targeted audience, for me it's for the rural communities who have maybe I can say who are low, we have low literate capability, to say that we need those messages that really speak to them in their local language, and also to say that the messages should be captivative. And we had an interaction with some of the rural youth and women. So I think information coming to them really needs to be captured in a way that they understand. And I noted that the use of skits, dramas, in their language, the things that they do in their communities will really make them understand these messages. And also, they don't have that opportunity, or let me say, the capability to say they'll verify information through Google or all of that. But if they have information that comes to them and that is verified, and they know who is their go-to person for information. As we said, that community-based organizations really play a key role, and also the leaders, traditional leaders, they rely on those. So you know that for rural communities, for them to discern or to say, no, this is true or this is false, it really takes them time. They'll just take anything, and that affects how they react or the decisions that they'll take towards their health. So I think if we really continue to engage these communities through our platforms, I understand here the community-based organizations, and also to continue working with them and also capturing down these rumors, listening out for them, I think that will help us.
What a journey. I think one thing I need to acknowledge, and I'm sure for most of the people in the room, you are well aware that this is not just the launch of the IEA, but an end to our project at Rooted in Trust in Zimbabwe. We've had a fantastic ride, but we didn't achieve all of this by ourselves. We have a lot of people that were thinking, not just in coming up with this IEA, but with the support that we did throughout the duration of this project. So I'm taking this opportunity to do just that. Big thank you to the Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance, Marialis, It was lovely meeting you, working with you, and with everyone in the office, acknowledging the impact that the infodemic has had on COVID-19. I think I say this from everyone in the room, that we really appreciate your support, and this project wouldn't have been success without your financial support. So to you and the USAID people, please share with us our sincere gratitude, and we thank you very much for that. Our partners, ZACRAS, SITE, as well as the Community Working Group on Health. With SITE, Cindy outlined that they are supported, especially with the online survey for the IAA. But throughout the duration of this project, SITE was responsible for online listening as well. That's how we're collecting some of these rumors. Collecting rumors online, cataloging them, ranking them according to risk, which one is high risk, which one is moderate risk, and then coming back into communities and providing accurate information through their network of podcasters and comedy skits. I'm sure you also Magela's Kobo Kobo online, and you loved hearing the way he was talking about masks. That was SITE and this project. So it was quite impactful, and I would like to believe that they demonstrated to not just, they demonstrated to us as well how effective it is to work with influencers in making sure that people get correct information. And in this instance, that's correct life-saving information. This was also done by ZACRAS, and it was quite interesting to note that the influencer they worked with actually won a NAMA award about 3 weeks ago, isn't it? Yes. So the traction that he got from his the skits that he posted, it reached so many people. And I would say it and emphasize that it demonstrates the key influence that influencers have in our communities and how we can work with them in making sure that right and correct information is reached in communities. Community working group, our relationship is still a toddler, but in the few times that we've worked together, very impactful. We appreciate your work, we appreciate your support, and we look forward to more, definitely. Through the process of this IAA, we worked and we came into communities, and you noticed 422 people were reached out to make sure that we come up with this research. Sincere thank you to Community Radio Initiative leads who are here in the room, who facilitated entry into communities, the enumerators who were the ones going into communities, speaking different languages, but able to articulate it correctly back to English. So we would be able to flesh out what exactly was the direction of the research and so on. And so we really appreciate you. We have pastors who supported us. We have just community leaders. We have doctors. There's many youths who were respondents in this research. Thank you so much for taking part in this and helping us understand how information flows in your communities. And we know and are confident that having known this, people will know what exactly to do and how to direct communication when we come into communities. We are not presumptive. We have been given the lens into how information flows, and we'll make sure to leverage on that. Internews team, I want you to raise your hand, guys. Yeah. So I'll call out your names. There's Cindy, so who led this research in Zimbabwe. Cindy was here in front. Thank you. And she was supported at the global level by Reason Peremauro, who were so happy that although he's in the global lead, but he's also Zimbabwean. So we kind of abused him a little bit. So you saw him there. And then we have Stella Murumba, who's our regional manager for our project. She's based in Nairobi and gladly decided to also grace us with her presence here, Stella. And we taught her a phrase, can you please greet people? You've blanked out, we need to rework it. Right, so Stella Murumba is here from Nairobi. She supported us with the review, with the direction. And to colleagues here in the room who are very instrumental, we have Tando. Tando has been here up front, our media mentor. Beulah Huni, Atkins Sitole. Thank you very much, guys. We also have Tandegile Ngube, Tapera Gwejira, all of this wouldn't have been possible. And of course, our finance and admin team that supported us. We, in this room, also have translators. One of the key cornerstones of the Rooted in Trust project was that we were able to make sure communities have information in their respective languages. I've seen Kulube. Thank you so much, Denson Kulube. I was responsible for about 3 languages we translated internally in Ndebele and Shona. He's able to review, and he also had translations in Sotho for all our bulletins. We have Rema Ketsimbezi. Thank you, Rema. And then Eso Dube, directly responsible for Tonga. These are our team members, and I would say a fighting team because these guys are very professional. Worked under pressure, but made sure to deliver all the time. We appreciate you for that. And the humanitarian actors who are here in the room, and some may not be, who may not have managed to make it. The forums that we all sat in, the discussions that we had, the feedback that you provided for us, well appreciated. I think the impact that we actually had in communities wouldn't have been possible without you actioning some of the recommendations that we discussed in these forums. I would also particularly mention the Apostolic Women Empowerment Trust, AWEPS, with the representative here. They were very instrumental in reaching their community and ensuring that the correct information, especially in relation to COVID-19 and vaccines, was shared in their communities. We appreciate that and that collaboration. And through our fellows, some who are here, we managed to reach in this project different communities. That includes, say, artisanal miners. We also reached out to university students, shantytown dwellers, the LGBTQIA community, hearing impaired, and of course, youths. All of that wouldn't have been possible without the work of our fellows. Thank you so much for working with us, and how seamless that was. You know, sometimes when you're working with people and you say, hey, can we do this? Sometimes you have that hold up and fear that, okay, what if something does happen? Nothing happened. Everything went perfectly. We thank you and appreciate you for that. I'll share an experience that I had yesterday in Mango District. We were invited there by the Community Working Group on Health for a district feedback meeting. In that platform, there were different key stakeholders: Minister of Health and Childcare, Minister of Women Affairs representatives, the Youth, Sports, Arts and Recreation Office, the DDC, Minister of Women, I mentioned Minister of Human Affairs, Minister of Home Affairs representative. So it was basically a circle like this, where the community monitors we've been working with, who do offline listening to what people are saying in communities. We're providing feedback in the district so that those relevant stakeholders will then know what exactly is a concern in their community. And in that platform, it was different. It was quite interesting to note that what office bearers thought was a concern in their community was quite different from what the community monitors heard from the community. For instance, I'll give an example of how the statistics, or the indications whether the statistics may be going down, but there's actually a mumps outbreak that the community monitors picked up in their communities. There is also, I remember one woman who expressed that there were some communities who still had trauma and stress because of how the issue of burials was dealt with during the COVID-19 pandemic. So in that platform, then the relevant person will then respond. For the lady who was actually responsible for all those regulations in relation to the burials, said she was concerned. She would like to reach out to the community. Someone who mentioned there's underage drinking in a particular pub, and the police officer said, yes, share with us that information. So this is basically what Rooted in Trust has been about. Closing that feedback loop between stakeholders, humanitarians, journalists, and making sure that we all understand what's happening in communities and responding in real time. Because I feel like with COVID-19, we had some preconceived notions of what exactly is there in communities, but having heard the feedback from people without understanding the need to listen to them and act speedily whenever there is a problem that emerges. So that is our approach at interviews. We want to close the feedback loop and make sure that all stakeholders can listen to, there's a two-way approach basically in how we do things. Listen to people and respond to their concerns. We also want to make sure that we provide people with timely, relevant, trusted information in languages that they prefer. And to also hold everyone accountable. I think a lot of times we may be fearful and we think that, well, we don't want to upset the cat, but only when we've heard what people want and what people need, we will be able to then give them the support they need, provide interventions that are tailor-made for their needs, not what we perceive are their needs. So that's the approach that we do. And from the IAA that you got today, or that you received today, these are the things that we have also tried to then also factor in our programming. We are holding media literacy events for the youth so that they're able to discern between correct and incorrect information. We have been working with community health workers to try and understand what exactly their information needs are, so that we can then support them and provide them with relevant, with trusted sources of information, and as well as the tools on how they can verify information, so that when they escalate, they cascade it to their communities. It's correct and factual information. We also have an IAA, Batabile has mentioned, the LGBTQIA+ IAA that we are finalizing. And for those who are interested in having a read of that, I'll task Thandekile with the responsibility that please can you share your details with her, and as soon as that report is ready, we'll mail it to you, because it's imperative for you to have sight of that report, and most importantly, we believe, action the findings that you find therein. And I think to wrap it up, it's been a long journey. We appreciate everyone and every support that you've provided. We thank you for coming to this event and for sharing your precious time with us. I always like to believe that maybe this is just a bye for now. It's not a goodbye forever. But thank you very much, Siyabonga. Maita basa twalumba angazi ukuthi ngathini ngeSotho. Uyabo ngeSotho.